Hi, everybody. My name is Brittany Rose, co-founder of Women in Real Estate, founder of Vanta Funds and Vanta Real Estate. Today, I am here with Makita Smith, and I'm so excited to have her. She is an international real estate agent, developer, investor, all of the things. And she's going to be sharing a lot with us today about international real estate and also her experience in investing abroad.
So I am Makita Smith. I am the CEO and founder of Savvy Chicks in Real Estate, and I have been in the real estate business for 20 years here in the state of Illinois. And what I love to get to say now is that, I was practicing real estate inside of the United States, but now I get to practice real estate abroad and build a borderless business. And so Savvy Chicks in Real Estate, being a global real estate network, our targeted audience are real estate investors and real estate agents that want to build their business abroad and invest and sell and travel doing real estate.
I love that. And I think it's so important to expand our horizons beyond just what we experience here in the States. And I think this is something that a lot of people are kind of waking up to, so to speak. So I'm really excited to dive in with you and your personal journey. Tell us how you got started with international real estate. And was it as an agent or as an investor or a combination of the two?
So it is right now as an agent. My husband and I, we are investors in the United States. However, I have yet to purchase my first property in international territories, but it is coming this year. I'm just trying to decide which country I want to invest in and then what is calling on my heart. And really it's Africa, but I'm like, okay, is it Ghana? Is it Kenya? Is it Nigeria? Is it South Africa? So I'm really trying to narrow down the actual country that I want to invest in. So I got started with international real estate as an agent. And so I always go back to say, people ask me, well, how did it happen? In 2012, I was invited to be a speaker in Dubai. And so it was for a Christian faith-based retreat. And once we got out, Brittany, into those Dubai international streets, it was over from there. We went to the desert for the very first time. I was able to participate in that desert safari, being able to be surrounded and seeing the sun on one side and being surrounded by nothing but miles of sand. It completely changed my life, so much so that I took off my shoes. I walked around barefooted and I said, God, enlarge my territory. I prayed the prayer of Jabez. And the next thing that I know, last year, God definitely enlarged my territory. It came with some pretty hard lessons at the same time because international real estate is different than the United States real estate. And it's just a different ballpark. And so I had to learn a lot of hard lessons about planning an event inside of the United States and then what planning an event outside of the United States look like, because you would have also people that would take advantage of you because they think you're the Beyonce and Jay-Z of, United States when you're going over into international territory. And so for me, I've been learning a lot of hard lessons, not only for myself as a business owner, but also for my clients and for the investors so that I can tell them what to do and what not to do. But I always, for anyone who is investing inside of international territory, make sure you use an attorney that is in that particular country and do not try to go at it alone because it is a different ballpark.
Oh, 1,000,000% agreed on that. Tell me a little bit about the lessons that you're learning or have learned and your experience in the international investing realm.
Okay, so let's start with on the investor side. There are different ways that people hold title. And so how we're used to people holding title here is that once you buy it, you own it until you sell it. And so for buying in international territories, let's say like Dubai, for an example, they have zones within their area and also within a country to where some zones that you buy in is bought at a freehold. And so that's a different type of title that you can hold. You buy it, you own it for as long as you have it and you sell it. And then other territories in other countries, you have a leasehold. And so the leasehold means that you may own the property, but you would never ever be able to own the land, that you get to lease it, but it has to revert back to the actual owner. And so we've had calls over the past maybe 9-10 months, talking to different attorneys in different countries about what does that look like, and then what type of things can a foreign investor who's looking to buy in these leasehold countries put in place now so that it protects them when the lease is up. So an example of that would be for Ghana. Ghana gives a foreign investor 50 years to be able to own a particular property. And so it's like, okay, well, what happens when that 50 years is up? It reverts back to whoever the particular owner is that you were leasing the property from. the attorneys that we talked to, they said some of the things that you can do in order to make sure you have legal things in place. And I'm not an attorney, y'all, so make sure you consult with one. But you can put a clause inside of your contract that will allow for the renewal period. So let's say the 50 years is up or the 40 years, whatever is left on that lease, that once it's up, you already have a renewable clause that is within that particular contract. It can also say that it won't go over a certain amount, because who knows what property values may go up. They may want more than what you originally paid for it. Of course, it being 50 years later. So you can put that in yourself. But what I would like to do is to make sure that I educate the real estate agents, also educate the real estate investors, and making sure that they know what it is exactly that they're getting into when they're actually writing the contract. And so that's very important to me. Another thing that I learned as I have been going through these international real estate streets is learning about what type of property tax percentage that you have in different countries. In some areas in Ghana, it's 5%. In the UAE, they have no property tax. Property tax is zero. And so that's a great thing for an investor that's looking at, like, okay, what do I do in order to make sure that I am getting the best return on my investment? And so when you hear somebody say in Dubai, well, if you purchase there and you're buying something at 2,000 or 300 USD, if you do not have to pay any property tax, then you can definitely afford more house and more property and be able to get a higher return on your investment. We'll be going to Dubai and Maldives, and we are looking at hosting another real estate property tour so that we can show people what it's like in order to be able to invest in areas like Dubai and be able to touch, feel, and see the quality of the project. That's another lesson that I've learned too, Brittany, is that you have some areas to where the quality is not the same in some of the development that is being built out there, because depending on what the rules and regulations is for like building inspections, permits, and things like that, everything is not created equal. Like you can have some steps that are off, some foundations that are off. And so for me, I'm making sure that I'm doing my due diligence to make sure that the investors that are going out to these properties, that we are seeing what the quality of it actually looks like by going into these countries. And so for me, I'm just making sure that I do my due diligence, because we are in international territories. It's not the same as me going down the street to KB Homes. And, it may take 6 or 8 months, whereas in other countries, it's taking 2 to 3 years for them to actually complete a development. So that's another thing that's very important when it comes to actually buying a property. So I know I've been talking for, I think, about a good 10 minutes. So I'll let you, ask the next question.
Yeah, I want to know how you're vetting your partners. How are you vetting your development partners, your broker partners? How do you vet the lawyer that you choose? I think one of the biggest challenges is developing a really strong network internationally so that you can successfully get through these transactions. How have you gone about this?
Oh, that is so good. So I'm going to say that I learned a hard lesson in that too, because being from the United States, being who I am, people tell me I have a big heart. And so I'm just like, oh, okay, listening to what people saying and like taking them at their word and what they're saying. And so I had to learn a very hard lesson after having to sever a recent relationship. I had to vet. And so my team and I just recently, in January, went out and we looked at some attorneys in a particular country, Ghana in particular, and we were looking at the U.S. Embassy and how the U.S. Embassy had these attorneys that were listed. And we was like, okay, we'll start with these attorneys and we'll do away with the attorneys that we had before. However, when we went through that list and my assistant, we found out that 2 of the attorneys that was on the embassy's list themselves were deceased and they were no longer practicing real estate. So had we not done our due diligence, we would not have known that. And so even coming from the embassy standpoint, you think, okay, it's the embassy, like they had already vetted these people or why they were alive, but they didn't take them off the list now that they're no longer here. And so that was one thing. And so the attorneys that we did meet with, we scheduled individual interviews with them. And then we just looked at their social media. We looked at their website. reviewing like testimonials from actual clients, and then actually meeting them, not on a phone call, but meeting them on a Google Meet, a WhatsApp video, a platform like this to say, hey, I would like to know what are the services that you offer? How often are you dealing with foreign investors? And what are some of the challenges that you have had with working with foreign investors, and just hearing what their response. And so in doing that, Brittany, even with dealing with the two attorneys, for an example, one seemed very confident in working with foreigners to purchase land in a leasehold state. He was like, okay, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. But the other one was like, it may be some things that come up that, I will tell you, okay, this is not a good buy. But he didn't have the confidence that the other attorney had. And so I was like, you know what? I want to work with this attorney that's sure about what it is that he's doing, because he's done it before. And that's the reason why he had the confidence. And not only just done it before, but he done it multiple times. And that particular attorney, Brittany, lived in the United States, but he still had 25 attorneys that worked in his country back home. And that says a lot.
Yeah, it does.
Because if you're working as an attorney in the US and you have a firm back home in another country, then you're able to identify like what the foreigner would want to know based on how you're practicing in the United States.
Yeah.
So that's basically how I'm vetting, is like interviewing people, looking at because Google will tell you a lot when you put in people names, who they are, if there's any complaints out there. And even if these are people that are in a foreign country, you can still do your due diligence. The flip side of that, Brittany, is going to the actual places, flying in, getting on the ground, and going to see the development, going to meet the attorney. When I was in Ghana a few weeks ago, one of the attorneys wanted to meet with me, but I just didn't have the capacity to meet with them because we had a full schedule. But yeah, it's getting on the ground too.
I love that. And since we're on the topic of Ghana, I want to know if you can go through a high level step by step of how you go through this process. How do you identify, for any clients that you work with, how do you identify an opportunity? How, what's the financing structure like? How do you close, etc.?
I love that. Okay, so as it relates to Ghana, because it's different than working in the Dominican Republic, and we can talk about that, like how that's different. But for Ghana, the process looks like, and I want to speak to the agent and I want to speak to the investor. So we actually host investor calls regarding different development that is in Ghana. And so the developers that we choose, they have already been vetted by people who are already on the ground to say, hey, they have this reputation in the marketplace. They have quality product, even hearing from maybe some people who have purchased in that particular development and how they feel about the developer. I also look at like how long has a developer been in business. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't work with a new developer, but that vetting process is a little bit different, because for somebody like, for an example, DevTraco, they are one of Ghana's top developers, but they have not been in business as long as a 20-year company. Some of them have been in business since like 90s. Some have been in business since the early 2000s, but it's the reputation that they have in the marketplace. And when we went to Ghana, we was able to go to the headquarters of DevTraco to be able to meet with the people, the salespeople who are in the office. And so I connected with a salesperson at the development that's able to personally work with me and to work with my clients to say, hey, Makita, we have these properties that are available. They give you a availability sheet, so that way, Brittany, your investors will know like what is available, what has come off the market. Because anytime an investor puts down a reservation, that property comes off of the market. And typically what it looks like is that they will have a reservation fee, whether it be $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. Every developer has a different payment plan structure, and you start from the beginning to reserve your property. And then maybe what it looks like in 30 days, you put down your first installment. And then over the course of the construction, you're paying either a monthly, you're paying quarterly, however the payment plan works for that particular developer. And that payment plan can go 12 months. It can go 2 years, depending on the construction of the actual property. What I also like to tell the agents is that, guess what, agents, contrary to how it is in the United States, you can actually get paid before a property actually closed in these other countries, because they typically pay you off of the first installment rather than waiting the 12 months to 24 months until a property actually closed. And so once they put up the reservation and they're making their payment, they're just checking in on the process of their loan, not the loan, or the process of the construction of their property, and then just making sure that it's still on track to be completed by the date that they entered into the agreement with. Everyone that we work with, we do require for them to work with an attorney that is in that country so that their legal interest is protected. Because again, we're not an attorney. We don't operate in these countries, like I have for a long period of time in the United States. And even Brittany, in the United States, I make my clients sign a waiver if they refuse to work with, an attorney here in the United States. Same thing with it, an inspection. Also, Brittany, we have inspectors that are also in these countries. That the same way that we would have them to go to a KB Homes or a Pulte Homes to look at the new development, we have them also to hire an inspector in these other countries so that their interest is protected as well, because the inspector will find some things. And that's very important. And so flip side, looking at how it is for Dominican Republic versus Ghana, it's just the difference in the payment plan, having that freehold versus the leasehold. We still require for them to work with an attorney over here in the Dominican Republic, but a lot of the properties that are in the side of the Dominican Republic, those have what we call a comforteur tax. And a comforteur tax allows you to be able to have tax exemption for up to 15 years if that particular developer puts in the paperwork to qualify for that tax. Now in Ghana, they don't have that particular thing. And so every country has a different incentive to get a foreign investor to invest. Another thing that Ghana does not have that Dominican Republic have. If you invest $200,000 or more, you can fill out an application to qualify for residence over in the Dominican Republic. Same thing in Dubai. If you spend, I think the amount there is like $5 USD, you can qualify and apply for their golden visa program. In Greece, it's I think $5 to apply for their golden visa program once you hit that investment of $5. So it's just like, I know that was a lot, but it just gives you some idea of like the differences in like the three countries.
Yeah. And it also talks to becoming an international citizen, right? Like you're not only getting to make investments all around the world and make money from those investments, but you're also becoming an international citizen and hopefully gaining visa or citizenship based off of your investments. I think that's amazing. Now, we talked a little bit about using attorneys in order to protect ourselves in our transactions. How else do you recommend people protect themselves when they're making large cash payments to developers? And how do you mitigate the legal system? And obviously you're not a lawyer, but what have you seen lawyers do to protect their clients against people who might be taking advantage of them or people who can just run away? Because if I'm in the States and you're in Ghana, you could disappear. How do I protect myself in those cases?
And so I think it goes back down to like the transfer of that wire money. So it's like the same thing in the United States, how they tell you, okay, like if you don't know this person, like don't transfer. Once the wire has been transferred, like you can't get your money back. And so it's just making sure from that initial transfer. And so I know from me, even working with a brokerage over in Ghana, that particular owner was just making sure that we had an escrow, a third party escrow company that we can have our clients to transfer money into that escrow rather than transferring it directly to the developer. Now, some developers do have it that way in certain countries, but transferring it directly to the escrow, and then the escrow will release it based on the progress of the actual development itself. So if you go, you see progress, okay, we're releasing a little by little. However, in other countries, it works different. And so in some countries, I have seen people just, wire money straight to the real estate company. They have wired money straight to the agent and trusting them to make sure that the money where it needs to be. But I would just make sure that consulting with your attorney, that you make sure you are wiring the money to the correct place before you wire it. Because once it, like your bank tells you, once it's wired, it is very difficult for you to be able to get your money back. I would also make sure that even on the initial reservation, those are typically non-refundable. So you want to make sure that's clear. Is it refundable or is it non-refundable? Does this reservation of 5 and 2 and 3, does it go towards my initial payment, or is this a separate reservation fee outside of my initial payment? And then also just going back to what we talked about before, just making sure that we vet them. Like, are they registered with the particular government? Is there any information that the embassy of that particular country, not necessarily U.S. embassy, but the embassy of that particular country, do they have them listed? Are they listed as a business owner? You talked about like now becoming an international investor and then an agent. but we also, Brittany, have people that are becoming international business owners by registering their business in other countries. And this is what I absolutely love, that every step, even though I don't have all the answers, every step that I take into international territory, God gives me more answers and makes the vision even more clear, because now people are registering their business inside of the Dominican Republic, but now they're looking at other things like, can I open up a group home? Can I open up some type of healthcare practice? What is missing in the Dominican Republic, that now that I have the business for real estate investing or being an agent, what are some other investment opportunities? And that's the same thing in Ghana, same thing in Dubai. What's common to us in the United States is not so common when it comes to these other countries.
Yes. And I love that. I love being able to take these real estate lessons and opportunities and connections and transfer that into even more income generating opportunities. I want to talk about how you vet agents. What should somebody be asking? What should they be looking out for when they're looking to find an agent that works internationally?
Oh, that is good, because I be having to vet agents myself, because people ask, because when you start putting yourself out there as an agent or somebody who's in international territory, people are going to come to you. Like, people were asking, do you know somebody in Tulum? Do you know somebody in Belize? Do you know somebody in Jamaica? And so I actually, if I don't have anybody in my internal network, I'll go out, I search Instagram, search social media, search LinkedIn, and see if I can find someone. And then I'm tapping in, what areas of the country do you work in? Because everybody doesn't work in all areas of the country. Like, we're broken up into states. And then, like, I even found out, even though overall you don't need a license to work as an agent in Mexico, there are certain areas in Mexico where you do need some type of certification in order to sell properties there. And I was like, wow, didn't know that part. And so it's very important for you to vet the particular agent by testing their knowledge. Like, how long have you been in business? What is the buying process? And if that person, like, I'm able to, like, just spit this out to you, then I know what the buying process is. But if somebody asked me this question a year ago, I would not have had the answer for them like I have now, because now I have the over a year of experience in working in these international territories. So it's just even testing their knowledge, asking them if they have any clients or any reviews that you can vet. Is there anything with the government that shows that they actually are either licensed or with a brokerage? Because every agent does not have to be licensed with a country. So that may not be something that they may be able to provide, but they should be able to provide you with some type of credentials that says actually who they are. And it's your job and your responsibility to do just the simple thing by searching online to making sure that, you see that the person is actually doing what they say that they're doing.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people can be scammers out there, and you would have known that they were a scammer if you would have just Googled.
Right. I mean, I always like to do business with people that I know have done business with others, right? So,
Yeah.
Wire has a huge network as well as Savvy Chicks in real estate. And so I'm always asking, like, okay, who did you do business with? What was your experience with them? Because if they had a good experience, it's a lot more likely that I can trust them versus just shooting in the dark. So being a part of these communities, these networks, having access to women who lead these networks, who can put you in touch with folks and can kind of lead you down the path, I think it's really, really important. If you're becoming an agent or if you're investing, either way, I think it's super important to just find people who are doing the work and who are in community with other people that are international, local, whatever it takes to find the resources that you need to be able to move forward. Now, we've talked about a couple of different countries, but tell me your favorite countries to invest in or to work in, and why.
I'm going to say it's a mix between Ghana and also Dominican Republic. The reason why Ghana is because your roots are there, like your ancestry grounds, like it's there. The foundation is there. Ghana for me, going both times was just an emotional experience, just because it just reminds you just how much you're standing on the shoulders of your ancestors and where we get our strength, where we get our resilience, why we feel like, God has called us into like this international territory. I feel like Ghana and Africa itself, because it's not just Ghana, but that it's the promised land. I've been to Egypt. Going over to Egypt, I realized as I was traveling to Egypt that Egypt was in Africa. I'm like, Egypt is in Africa. Like, we were going to Africa. And so, but it was a different Africa in Egypt that it was in Ghana, whereas everybody that I encountered looks like me. And I'm sure I have the same experience when we go to Kenya, Nigeria, but Dominican Republic is fun because it's close to the US, it's in the Caribbean, it's the number one destination spot in the actual Caribbean. I love the fact that it's freehold, and I think that it's a great investment for investors versus the leasehold opportunities. Not that it's not a good investment, but you really have to be a savvy investor when you are investing leasehold, because like I tell people, they say, well, why would I invest leasehold? Millions of people are doing it every day, including in Indonesia. Their leasehold is a shorter term, like 20 years, 26 years. Like they have a shorter term, but it's what you do while you have the leasehold that makes all of the difference, because you still have the right as an investor to be able to rent it out, to be able to do all these things that can make you money while you have the leasehold. But if you are a new investor, you are afraid, fearful, you may not feel like you will be able to maximize on that 50-year lease or 99, because you can't get an extended, versus owning something freehold. So for me, it's just it's a mix between Ghana and Dominican Republic for different reasons.
Yeah, I understand. And then how are you supporting other agents as they explore different countries and becoming experts in those countries? I know that you and I are both part of EXP, and even though we're in different organizations, the Wire Collective allows us to work together. And so I want people to know, wherever you're an agent, whatever team, whatever country, like there's opportunity to grow and collaborate and connect no matter where you are, what you're doing. Tell us more about how you're supporting agents internationally and how the path is different supporting agents internationally than it is here in the US.
Yeah, thank you for asking me that. So with Savvy Chicks in Real Estate, we initially started in 2016 where we were supporting agents by helping them to create multiple streams of income by creating things like coaching programs, memberships, digital products with ebooks and courses. But now 7 years later, we're helping real estate agents to get out here in these international streets, not just have income coming from their particular state in the United States, but looking at building a borderless real estate business. And when I was approached by EXP, I had a good friend that said, Makita, I went to 5 countries last year in 2020. She said, Makita, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean? I've been to 5 countries. She was like, yeah, but EXP is in 24. I was like, oh, well, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? So she was like, you can instantly open up this country, that country, that country, and be all over the world. And I was like, okay, how can I fit this into my model? And so as I began to press, God was just showing me what the big picture vision is. And really, I don't see anyone yet doing it in EXP. So it's a great opportunity for you and I to be able to expand internationally, to say, hey, wait a minute, let me help these agents who don't know that you can work in Dubai, that you can work in Italy, Brazil, and Mexico, and work across. And with a company like EXP, it's just a matter of clicking a button, finding out what the requirements are, and meeting the requirements, and opening up your company in the other country without having to leave from brokerage to brokerage to brokerage. It's one brokerage in 24 countries. And how we help support is that we have a membership program where agents, they don't know what to say about international real estate. So we give them a marketing calendar to post international real estate. We give them captions to post. We tell them the properties that they can post. We also host an investor call twice a month where they can invite their investor or potential clients that want to invest in countries like Ghana, Dominican Republic, Dubai, and they're able to walk away with those actual leads. And if they buy, that's their commission. So they're building their business without having to leave. The other way that we're doing it, Brittany, is by actually going to the country. And so last year we started in Indonesia. We went to Dominican Republic. We've been to Egypt and we've been to Dubai. And so in a few months, we'll be in Greece. We'll be in Dominican Republic again. And we'll be in Dubai and Maldives, which I'm excited about because we've never been to Maldives. But then somebody reached out to me because they seen that I was building an international real estate brand. And they said, how would you like to sell our properties that are located in Maldives? They said Dolce & Gabbana is building residential properties there, and we would love to have you to market it. And I was like, oh my God, like it just came full circle because I already planned a retreat there. And here it is, somebody reached out to me about being able to sell property there in Maldives. And so just by me living, by me posting to social media, by me going to these places, selling the actual real estate, even hosting events and talking to people on IG Live or Facebook Live, people are now starting to see how they can incorporate international business, real estate into their business.
Of that. And I agree. So for Wire, we always go through our core values and our mission and getting clear on what it is that you're here to do and why you're here. And by following that passion, I know you're going to several countries next year. We're going to Ghana to do a real estate tour. More and more people are starting to really follow their passion and follow their calling, whether it's nationally or internationally, and then to bring others along and help them and while helping themselves. So I think we're all in such synergy, and I'm really happy that you were able to come on and talk for a few minutes. If there are any final thoughts or ways that people can connect with you, please share.
So I would say make sure you follow me on my page on Instagram at Makita Smith CEO. And also we have Savvy Chicks in Real Estate Instagram page, and you will be able to find us across multiple platforms. But look to see what type of retreats that we may have coming up that you can join in on, and then learning about the different culture, the business opportunities. Like for an example, when you go to Ghana, Brittany, you'll be able to see how they have cocoa farms, they have agriculture, they have other things that they're doing that people are actually building off of. We also had someone recently that have like video home inspection. So you have foreigners that are buying properties in Ghana, but now they have a video inspection to where they go and they inspect the property, but then they send that foreign investor a video of the actual property, what they found, and then the developer gets a copy of what it is that they want them to fix. I would say in anything, even if you have fear, I was fearful, make sure you get out here in these international territories, because you don't know what promised land that God has for you if you do not get out here and explore the territory. And so that's the last words that I will leave. Just follow the journey and don't just watch us. Hop in with me and Brittany.
Yes, absolutely. And I also mentioned that if you're not ready to hop in by yourself, I know, Makita, we haven't discussed this in detail, but I'm really looking forward to figuring out some way where we can open a fund and help people invest collaboratively. Because you don't have to do it alone. You can, you're welcome to, we'll support you on it. But if that's not what you're ready for, that is okay. And if you're not ready to like babysit people, collectively invest. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk. I'm really looking forward to talking to you more, looking forward to keeping up with you and sharing your journey with my audience. And I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Brittany. I look forward to it.